Opinionated Idiot.
Welcome back to the Opinionated Idiot live show. It's Tuesday, April 4th, 2023. I am the Opinionated Idiot. My name is Brian. I'll be your host this evening, and I want to welcome everybody back to the live stream. If you're watching this right now, you're either watching it live or on replay. I do download these episodes and launch them back out into the wonderful world of YouTube to try to hit that algorithm to bring more viewers over to a live show. I do my live shows Sunday, Tuesday, and 30s at 8 and 30s. I'm all messed up this evening. I do my live shows Sunday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We would love for you, if you're watching this video on replay, to join us on those nights, because this is an interactive show with myself and my faithful audience. Now that I got all the advertising out of the way, how is everybody doing this evening? I see a lot of my regulars, a lot of my members here in the chat. Let's look through and see who's here so far. I know Amber has been here since the beginning. She's already been typing in the chat. I know she's having a little bit of difficulty in her area, so I want to wish Amber a lot of luck in her area. I know she's going through some issues with tornadoes. Amber, stay safe. We love seeing you here. We love the dedication to come in here and hang out with us when you're going through such a tough time. So I do wish you well there. Thank you so much. And I want to recognize this new member. AZ has become a new member of the channel. So like you guys, what we always do here, we play the tone, the new member tone. Thank you, AZ. We'll give him a round of applause for that as well. And I actually do chat with AZ via email, so I do appreciate all your emails. I do appreciate all your emails. We talk via email. It's great. It's great. Been great. Yeah, my tongue is so tied this evening. It's been great getting to know you. Let's see who else we have in the chat. Firefly is here. Good evening, Firefly. I've had some conversations via email as well. It's been great getting to know you. Dr. Bob is always here, and he's saying that Amber, please stay safe tonight. MRG is in the chat. He says, hey, I'm here, and I'm ready for another great show. Well, hopefully I have a fun show. Listen, we don't talk Koberger all the time here. We got to do some other stuff too. So hopefully you guys will all stick around. Shipley's here. Good to see you as well. And who else we got? Christine Brown is here. I'm going to get your mug out on Thursday. I promise I'll get that out to you. I've just been busy with work, but don't worry. I have Thursday off, and that's one of my top priorities to get that in the mail. So don't worry. Okay, that's what we have so far. Hopefully the crowd will grow as the show goes on this evening. So what are we doing tonight? We're going to talk John Wayne Gacy and look back. And I know we can go back and look at all of the documentaries and all of the life stories. We're not going to do that. We're going to get right into the good stuff. And the thing that I found out being really interesting about this, you know, we're going to talk about a man that dressed as Pogo the Clown, and on his very last words of his execution was "kiss my ass." So very interesting. But what I found out is Gacy didn't give a lot of video interviews, if any interviews at all. But I was managed to pull and extract some of that via YouTube, which has been fantastic. So my goal this evening is just to play the interviews with Gacy, because that's all the good stuff. That's the stuff that we want to watch and analyze and look through. I actually found also an interview that was with one of his neighbors after Gacy was arrested. So we'll play that as well. And then his one of his very last interviews we're going to play this evening. And that was with Oh, excuse me. I have super heartburn today. And that is going to be with Bill O'Reilly. So we'll play that as well. All right, so let me just pull up this first, just to give a little bit of background. If anybody doesn't know, we're going to talk about John Wayne Gacy this evening. I'll read through kind of a little bit of his wiki here and go from there. Very strange fact and very creepy fact. John Wayne Gacy and myself share the same birthday. I don't dress up in clown makeup. I don't dress as a clown and go out and schmooze with the community. And that's one thing that is very creepy and strange and almost haunting about John Wayne Gacy. His ability to blend in with his environment, his ability to schmooze the crowds around him, his ability to get in with politicians, his ability to run businesses. And it's just insane the amount of how he had that ability to do that, that influence to do that over people. But let's look at this really quick. So it's John Wayne Gacy, March 17th, 1942 to May 10th, 1994. Also known as the Killer Clown, and Pogo the Clown was an American serial killer. And I'm not going to say those words because that does get you on trouble on YouTube. He is also confirmed to have killed 33 young men and teenage boys. He killed them all in a burial way and buried their bodies in or near his Chicago home. Gacy did not use a gun for any of his crimes. Gacy became known as Pogo the Clown and the Killer Clown because he would dress as a clown for fundraising events and parades. Ooh, so bizarre and chilling and haunting. In March of 1980, Gacy was convicted of 33 murders as well as sex crimes committed between 1972 and 1978 and given the death penalty. He was executed via lethal injection, which they actually had issues during the lethal injection, but they did manage to get it to work. On May 10th, 1994, Gacy's execution was filmed, and his last words were, "Kiss my ass." There were problems with the execution, but eventually ended Gacy's death, with Gacy in death. Immediately prior to the execution, Gacy observed last rites with a Catholic priest. He had converted to the Catholic Church. In his early life, John Wayne Gacy was, we've already talked about that. Let's see. His father was a World War I vet and a machinist, while his mother worked at home. He had two sisters and a younger and an older. Two sisters, one younger, one older. Gacy's father was an alcoholic. Growing up, Gacy Sr. would verbally and physically abuse his children. Gacy also had health problems in his youth. For example, in 1953, while playing on a swing, Gacy hit his head off the swing and suffered a blood clot. The clot was not treated until he was 16 years old. And after dropping out of high school in his senior year, Gacy moved to Las Vegas, Nevada to work in the mortuary. 3 months later, Gacy returned to Chicago, where he enrolled in and graduated from Northeastern Business School. After graduating, Gacy worked as a shoe salesman for the Nunn-Bush Shoe Company. In 1964, Gacy transferred to Springfield, Illinois, where he met Marilyn Myers. The couple married in September of '64. In the spring, Gacy was involved in community organizations such as the United States Junior Chamber. He also became the vice president of the Springfield chapter in 1965. He then moved to Iowa after Marilyn's father made him an offer to manage 3 of the KFC restaurants that they owned. Gacy and his wife moved to Waterloo, Iowa, where they had a son and daughter. In 1968, Gacy was diagnosed with anti-personality disorder. Unidentified victims. As of August 17, six victims remain unidentified. 5 who were been buried beneath Gacy's crawl space, and 1 additional youth buried approximately 15 feet from the barbecue pit in his backyard. Experts used the skulls to unidentify victims and create facial reconstructions. Based on Gacy's confession, information related to where the victims were buried in his crawl space relative to Gacy's identified victims in forensic analysis, police were able to determine the most likely dates when the unidentified victims were killed. We'll move to his death. On May 10th, 94, Gacy was executed by lethal injection. He was 52 years old. In October of 2011, Cook County Sheriff Thomas Dart announced that investigators have obtained a full DNA profile from which of the unidentified victims, where to renew their efforts to identify all of them. At a press conference announced this Sheriff Dart stated investigators they are actively seeking DNA samples from individuals across the United States related to any missing males between 1970 and 1979. Test results thus far conducted have confirmed the identity of 3 victims. Wow, I didn't even know that. Ruled out the possibility of numerous and other missing youths as being victims of Gacy and solved 4 unrelated cold cases between 1972 and 1979. So there's a little bit of the background on the infamous John Wayne Gacy. So let's do this. Let's play through some of the interviews, the rare interviews that Gacy gave, and he didn't give many. I found 2 that were very interesting. The first one here that I have that we'll play is with Robert Ressler, and that was in 1992. We'll play this, and this is about a 31-minute movie video. So let's play through this here.
My question would be to you right off the bat is why, after so many years of silence, never having a media interview, and people have said that you have given them interviews in your
well, that's hogwash.
Yeah,
that's strictly hogwash.
So we're saying
I'm constantly told that I'm misquoted constantly, saying that I said this and I said that, and it's not happened.
So it's pretty well established on this. This is the first time you're speaking publicly about your case.
Right.
Yeah.
I've always felt that my attorneys were handling it, and they said to keep a low profile and stay away from it. And in light of all that has been used against me in the media, they've created this fantasy monster image, and it's been going on for the last 12 years. And I've ever had no comment, and I had no need to talk to the media for the simple reason that they were looking for sensationalism and they were looking for the monster.
When you say fantasy monster image, what are you referring to by that?
Well, the idea that I'm a homosexual thrill killer and all that garbage, and they painted this image of me that like I strolled down the streets and stalked young boys and slaughtered them. Hell, if you could see my schedule, my work schedule, you know damn well that I was never out there.
Well, you were indicted, convicted, and sentenced on 33 counts of homicide. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, I was going to ask you, insofar as sound goes, if I'm down with my head, does that hurt your sound quality?
No, it's okay. Just try not to move around too much. If you're breaking the song, give him a cue.
I ain't going to break into any song. We'll go into the lead-in as you know, you were at 1978.
Yeah.
You were present.
Yeah. Okay, but that's the way I'd like to start, and I'd like to kind of go
what do
through
you got there? Let's see your list.
Well, I just like to go through the generalities, maybe talk about the background of the thing, the original case.
Bleeping of the language, I will watch the language.
Yeah, he's gonna try. John does tend to slip into.
Well, I call it as I see it. Some people can't understand that. All right, so whenever the hell they're ready.
Now, give me kind of just an overview of the business that you eventually established, the construction work. Is this self-taught then, the construction? And
yeah.
So he confessed in 78, but he was still so far distant, you know, as you heard in the beginning, where he's like, oh, you know, they made up all this stuff and said that you know, we made up all this stuff. And, you know, what they said about me, if you looked at my schedule, it couldn't have happened. I mean, he's still so complacent and still so non-dismissive of what he did. It's crazy. It's the narcissism.
I started doing painting, and then I started doing wallpapering and decorating. And inside of 3 years,
Who,
PDM,
me?
Which is
Me?
painting, decorating, and maintenance, was doing $1 million a year.
And that was.
And I only had 4 employees.
And that was the business you were in at the time of the arrests.
That's correct. PDM in 1974 became a corporation, and then I owned PDM Contractors Corporation. I owned PDM Plumbing, PDM Concrete, and PDM Decorating.
Mm-hmm.
And then I branched off with another partner into Rafco Construction.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, we were doing strictly drugstores.
Mm-hmm. John? Now, they did not search the house at that time or look through the house?
No. According afterwards, they're claiming that they came to the front door of the house and knocked on the door and that I hid from them.
To be honest with you, I'm going to need glasses soon. My eyes are getting bad.
There was no way I could have heard them. I was way in the back of the house, in the rec room, on the telephone. When they finally walked around the side of the house, I could look out the picture window, see them there, because I was on the phone, and they could see me clearly too, sitting on the couch on the telephone, because I was talking to my sister in regards to a death in our family. So I told her that I would call her back. Got up, went to the door, and he introduced himself as Kozenzak and Piquel, and they wanted to come in and talk to me about Robert Peast. And I had told him that I had not had any conversation with him, but I said, if you want to talk to me,
They're fake.
then come back there. And they
It's
wanted
all-
me to come down to the police station. Okay, well, I didn't have
It's all for the idiot effect. You know, that smart idiot look, you know?
time because I was doing work for the county and stuff like that. Went into the police station finally on the next day. After Kozenzak and Piquel were at the house. They had asked me to come in and give me an account of my whereabouts. The thing of it is that on that same day, they held me there for 9 hours. And while holding me there for 9 hours, they executed a search warrant. The first search warrant was executed on December 13th. That is the search warrant where they claimed they went through the house looking for Robert Peast. It was written up to be looking for Robert Peast, and Robert Peast wasn't there.
The police had focused in on you as being the suspect and the missing boy, and eventually,
Well, they were following me around.
following you.
Yeah, constantly. And on December 13th, I had made a statement to the police department, and from that date forward, they had me under surveillance. The only trouble is that the Mickey Mouse way they were doing it, they had 2 cars following me day and night, and they had trouble keeping up with me. So I used to go out to the car in the morning and tell them where I was going, so in case I got lost. Because at the time I was doing 5 construction jobs.
What I love about what this person did is they edited the idiot video down. This wasn't a documentary, but I love the fact that they cut out all the documentary and you're just getting kind of the full interview of the way it would have been if it was just shot one single interview.
In 5 parts of the city. So in essence, I was all over the place. But this was like Keystone Cops trying to follow me around.
There's that one photograph of you and Rosalind Carter.
Yeah,
What was that
Mrs.
story?
Rosalind Carter. Well, the Secret Service tries to cover it up and said, well, we don't know how he got into the picture. Hell, I was in charge of the reception. I had to stand at the door and let them know which politicians were allowed in and which ones weren't. The thing of it is, but the Secret Service wanted to cover up and make it sound like that I had no business there. I was cleared, and I was with the Secret Service at the time and setting up the parade route and everything, because I used to set up the parades for the Polish Alliance. And then for 3 years in a row, I had set up the parades to run.
Well, that's what I said, is that he used the cover of that good guy image, you know, that everyday guy that was involved in his community, you know, would glad hand everybody. I mean, he had relationships with the police, you know, the chief of police. He had with the police officers. This was all to cover what he was doing. And he's very smart in that way to blend in his environment, to seem like the everyday guy. And essentially, you know, this is what we found as far as BTK as well. He was just the family guy. He worked in town, you know, he had, you know, jobs around town and just blended in with society. That's what a lot of these crazy people do. They're very smart in that way. I mean, this guy, if I was to see him on the street out in his yard, you know, mowing his lawn or watering the lawn, I would just think it's just some normal neighbor, you know?
And, you know, that's a
You
big
wouldn't think
feat,
he's a
getting,
monster.
20,000 Polish people to go in one direction at one time. The subdivision where the Summerdale house is located is built on a clay field. And when it rained, the rain would come down from both ends and would flood from one house to the other. The crawl space would fill up with water. In 1976, I asked a landscaper, I said, what do you do for that sour odor of clay? And he said, spread white lime.
Now, what he's trying to say here is that the clay underneath his house was causing that smell. It was the dead bodies. And that's why he asked about lime to this landscaper. So he's just very complacent in the sense of that.
Just regular masonry lime. On the ground, he said it'll sweeten up the clay and you won't have that odor. It's sort of like
It's
what
to hide the
chocolate does
dead
in
body
filtering
smell.
tanks. That's why the lime was spread in the crawl space.
No,
How much lime was spread down there eventually?
I think 700 or 800 pounds of it. The first search warrant was executed on December 13th. However, what is strange is you had 20 trained officers that came into that house, supposedly went down in the crawl space, crawled around. There was no mounds of dirt. There was no odor. There was no nothing. I never feared anybody going down the crawl space. The clowning was relaxation for me. I enjoyed entertaining kids. Like some people
It's
are
creepy.
You know, they unwind in different ways. Either we're going out drinking or that. I could put on clown makeup and I was relaxed, and I enjoyed doing it. It was it was only twice a month that I did it.
Yeah, this was not used then for a lure to draw kids to you.
No, we would visit
Yeah, right.
and entertain the children there. And we didn't entertain them with handcuffs or anything like that. All we used was balloon animals and small toys and stuff like that.
Yep.
But we also
You're 100%
parades.
right,
and
Firefly.
in the summertime, like on 4th of July, I used to be in 4 parades in one day. I've always told people when I got into clown makeup, I regressed into childhood. It was fun being a clown because you could be yourself or just let yourself go and act a fool. You could be slapstick and funny and have a good time. That's why I always enjoyed clowning. Clowning has taken a bad name because of what they've used in my case.
On a historical note, your Iowa conviction goes back to what year was that?
1968.
68. And what was, just in a nutshell,
nice to see
without getting in too deeply, what was the basis of the Iowa conviction?
Yep, exactly. A regular choir boy.
It was a sodomy conviction. It's the only thing I ever was sentenced to was a sodomy conviction. They're claiming that the state representative's son, who was on the other party, he claims that he was sexually abused by me. And in essence, he was blackmailing me for it. Now, what it boiled down to was oral copulation. And it was consensual. I moved to Waterloo, Iowa. I was honored as Man of the Year because besides working full time, I also, I was the chaplain for the JCs and also ran the membership campaign. And of course, we used pornography. We had stag shows, and that's how we increased the membership from 150 to 400 members in that JC chapter. We were dealing with porno films, and we had a girl set up in a room in that. So it was, the thing to do. We were boosting membership from it. So nobody said a word about it. At the time, this young individual made the charge at me. He was blackmailing me. He wanted more and more money. He said, look, I gave you a blowjob. Now you got to pay for this. I said, go see your father. He wasn't getting along with his father. But they came down heavy on me.
How about your dad, John? You had mentioned that you could never really please him, that he had talked of you.
And I did not hate I didn't hate my dad either.
But you did have a hard upbringing with him, did you not?
My dad came from the old country, limited education, but he was a good provider and with strong will and strong views. He was also an alcoholic, sorry to say.
Was he abusive? Did he strike out at you?
When he drank, he was almost like a different person. My dad struck all of us children all the time. Yeah.
When you paroled out, where did you establish your residency?
I was under the interstate compact. I was paroled back to Illinois.
Mm-hmm. And you went to Springfield first, did you not?
No. Directly to Chicago because I had a job working at Bruno's restaurant. That was a requirement of interstate compact transfer. You had to have a job and a place to stay. I moved in with my mother. In the condominium, my dad had just passed away, so I lived with my mother.
Okay.
And worked at Bruno's as a chef. When I first got out on parole, for the next 2 years, I stayed with Bruno's restaurant, and I worked for them. But on the side, I used to go in at 4 a.m.
If you just came in, we're watching the interview with Robert. I think it's Wrestler. John Wayne Gacy. It's an interview he did back in 1992. This was part of a documentary, but the person that put this compilation together actually edited out the documentary and just had all the Gacy parts. Do me a favor, you can go down there while you're watching, just smash the like button as you come in. I really would appreciate it. All right, let's keep moving on here.
Morning and got off at 2:00 in the afternoon, and to me that was too short of a day, not enough work. So I started doing odd jobs painting, and I found that on the weekends, the afternoons and the weekends, I was making more money than I was as a chef, even though I was getting 12 something an hour. I borrowed $600 from my mother, and through odd jobs, I left the chef business. I own PDM contractors. PDM was able to work 52 weeks out of the year, while most construction companies shut down for the winter. I never had time to shut down because I had them on a waiting list. Our business was growing at that rapid rate. That Summerdale house was rented to PDM contractors. And like the living room was the front office. The dining room of that house was like a boardroom because it was an 8 by 10-foot table with big captain chairs because we use it as a boardroom for meetings.
John, the media has called you a homosexual killer. What is your position on homosexuality?
I have nothing against it. I'm an outspoken liberal. I don't care for the labeling. I don't care for any labeling for that fact.
Do you claim homosexuality?
No, I would definitely not be homosexual. I have nothing against what they do, and I don't deny that I've engaged in sex with males, but that I'm bisexual.
You're bisexual?
Right. My preference is women, and I've been married enough times and have children, and I see nothing wrong with it. My dad had conservative values. If you're out after midnight, you're up to no good. My dad did not believe it. If you're out after dark and you didn't leave a phone number, you were up to no good. So I think that's why I tended to go that way more, just to be the opposite.
Yeah.
I was married twice, and
good
just
pointing
because I
that
didn't
out.
belong in the marriages. My marriages went down the drain only because I was a workaholic, working 7 days.
Of course,
a week
he's a liberal.
There was 12
Come
keys out
on.
to the house.
That's how they all are.
12 sets of keys. Anybody working for PDM contractors had a set of keys for the house. So you could come and go when you wanted. And of course, my neighbors.
Did you guys catch the Trump arrest today? I won't get too political here, but I'm just wondering if you guys caught that.
Would keep me informed. They would inform me, God, while you were out of town, they must have been partying all night there.
Who is Rossi?
Michael Rossi was an employee of PDM.
And how old was he at the time? Who was he?
He was 20 years old. Insofar as being bisexual, if I wanted to engage in sex, Rossi and Cram were willing to go down on me anytime I wanted to, providing they were given stuff.
Now, when the search warrants were effected in your case, they did find an awful lot in the crawl space of your home, did they not?
Well, yeah, I had offered to sell them the house because I thought there was nothing down in the crawl space.
Yeah.
I had never had any qualms about them going down in the crawl space.
Well, how many bodies were actually located on the property, and where?
To my understanding, there was a total of 29 bodies or 28 bodies were found on the property. 27 of them under the house.
And the rest?
Jesus.
One was under the driveway, one was under the garage.
Jesus.
So that makes a total of 29.
Okay. Now, from the standpoint of the arrest, when you were arrested in this matter,
It's snowballed.
It's snowballed. Okay. What was the date of that arrest? Do you recall?
December 22nd, 1978 is when I was arrested. The rope trick is not.
If you catch my
the way
drift.
I describe the rope trick is it's nothing more than a tourniquet. And I had explained it to them. I even demonstrated.
Okay, he's going to demonstrate the rope trick here. If you don't know what this is how he captured and tied his victims up.
To them, would cut off the air. So if you're going to kill somebody, you just put it on their neck and twist it 3 times or 4 times or whatever, till the person stopped moving.
And you took him where?
Out on the I-55 bridge.
So I wouldn't say fun fact, but here's a fact for you. There was a guy in the, I think, late 70s, 80s, and very early 90s, a punk rock performer. His name was Gigi Allen, and he was a very his live shows were insane. The way he lived his life was insane. He was a drug addict, an alcoholic, and he did god awful things while performing on stage, cutting himself, defecating, just all this really crazy stuff. He's now had died of a drug overdose, but his brother actually bought some of John Wayne Gacy's paintings. So he owns them, which is weird and bizarre. But he collects, actually, his brother collects serial killer memorabilia, which is very strange and odd.
How was he then taken from the car and placed into the river?
Yeah, they do.
Just opened up the trunk and dumped him in.
Okay.
There was no big special deal on it.
Yeah.
I couldn't get down in the crawl space that easy, and then I had to bum back to begin with. You got to crawl on your belly to move around in the crawl space. There is no way that I could have done any of the digging down there. I had enough trouble just getting down there. Gregory Grodzick, let's see, number 4. Gregory Grodzick had come to work.
Well, he
for
was
me
executed. He was executed
in
May 10th,
according to this,
1994. Executed.
1976. He came to us through Taft High School through a program. He had worked for Republic Lumber Company, and then he came to work for us. Now, I'm not the monster image that's been portrayed of me. And the only way you can make a monster image is to make it look like I stalked the streets and picked up altar boys off the street. You know, they want to make them look like innocent babes in the woods, and I was swatting them like flies. My encounters were always by happen chance. If you pull up at a stoplight and there's somebody standing there waiting for a bus, if you give them a ride, and if you ask them whether, you know, do you get in anything or you want drugs or something like that, that's how it happened. Always happen chance encountered.
A number of 3 or 4 psychiatrists, psychologists interviewed.
I had 13 of them. There was 6 for the defense and 7 for the state.
Yeah. What was the
state
position
doctor
of the defense psychiatrist? What did they feel your problem was? What did they come up with from the standpoint of
border? What the hell is it? God, I can't remember offhand. Borderline personality, antisocial behavior. I don't see how anybody can be antisocial when you were involved with the public as much as I was.
How about the multiple personality issue?
Oh, the multiple personality came out of Dr. Reifman and Hartman. These 2 clowns from the Cook County there. They came to see me the first time. I said, "Do you want to talk to John Wayne Gacy, the politician, the clown, the family man, or the businessman?" The next day, I see it in the newspaper. Gacy has 4 personalities. I think one of the headlines said I was a homosexual mass murder, confessed mass murder. There is no confession. And we offered, I offered as much as $10,000 if you can produce a confession where I confess to a crime. The time that I was interrogated by the police officers, there was no stenographer, there was no tape recording, there was no videotaping.
Yeah, BC.
Nothing was ever taken down.
Good pickup.
Yet.
I noticed that too.
There's 5 confessions by John Wayne Gacy. Now, if I confess to something, then why wasn't it videotaped? Why wasn't it recorded? Why wasn't a stenographer brought in, had it written up, and have me sign it? There is no confessions in this case. What I did not know about this insanity defense is that in the state of Illinois, when you plead not guilty by reason of insanity, you're saying that you committed the crime, but that you were insane at the time. So it's not a question of innocent or guilt anymore. What they're trying to do is your whole trial now becomes an insanity trial where you decide whether a person is sane or insane.
John, how about Tim McCoy, the last one of the 5 that you say you had personal knowledge of?
Tim McCoy, even though he's the last one, he's the first one.
He's the first one, actually.
Right.
The first of the 33.
Tim McCoy was the first one, and Tim McCoy's name wasn't put on him until 1988. Prior to that, he was known as Unknown Number 9, and he was buried by me in the crawl space. That's the only knowledge that I have of it.
What was the circumstances of that?
He was killed in the house in self-defense.
And who killed him then?
I stabbed him.
Yeah, and it was an issue of self-defense. Why was he in the process of assaulting you, or what?
He was coming at me with a knife. I just took the knife away and twisted it in his hand.
I think that's what Gacy tried to say with a lot of these things, that it was like a lot of the killings were self-defense and I didn't bury them there. And I think for a long time he said, tried to say that he didn't know how all those bodies got down there. It was someone else that was doing it. He was being framed. Yeah, he went through the whole gamut of all of that. And it's just a bunch of just self-denial for what he did in his crimes.
And that's what killed him.
Delusions of grandeur.
At that point, you yourself did bury him then in the crawl space.
Right. And if you notice, he's under concrete.
Did you bury any of the others in the crawl space?
No, I had nothing. I had no knowledge of them.
Yeah. Well, why is it that your first one is there, and then 20 some others are buried down there as well.
Right.
Did somebody know that you had done this with the first one, that giving them an idea,
More than likely when drinking and getting high with the others, yeah.
admitting it to them? So you feel others then followed your suit in using this as a burial ground?
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Just want to highlight on John Zick. You know, they want to make such an issue over John Zick and his disappearance. I think he was killed for his car personally.
And your personal knowledge of the Zick case then is
my personal knowledge of the Zick case is that I had come home and Zick and Rossi were at the house. I had a few drinks. I went to bed. When I woke up the next morning, Rossi was sleeping on the couch and Zick was dead on the floor. I went about my own business and he was gone later on.
And where
That's
did he go?
crazy.
Where did he end up?
I assumed he ended up in the crawl space.
Did you see him being transported down there?
No, wasn't present. Didn't do the transporting.
But when he was dead on the floor?
He was dead on the floor, yes.
And did you have
In the hallway.
conversation with anybody about that?
No. In other words, I just kept my mouth shut because I didn't want to get involved.
No, I
My
didn't see
idea
that.
was just stay out of it.
John, let's step back to your childhood. What was your state of health as a child?
At the age of 10, I was told I had a enlarged bottleneck heart. Okay, and so I
Bottleneck.
had a tendency to pass out a lot.
How about childhood illnesses? Did you have any accidents, rather? Any sort of
I was hit with a
injuries or accidents?
When I went to the other vocational school, when I first went to the vocational school, I got hit with a park swing in the side of the head, caused a mastocyte.
At what age was that? Approximately.
14, I believe.
Got hit with a swing? Were you out unconscious?
Yeah, I was taken to a medical clinic.
Mhm.
That was at the time, that's when I started seeing that I had epilepsy.
Did you have any episodes of
Seizures?
Seizures.
Yes,
things of that nature?
seizures were, according to the doctor, they claimed that when I have an epileptic seizure, I had 800 times my own strength, or 800 pounds of strength.
Had you ever been sexually abused by anybody?
At the age of 9, there was a contractor. Who
Building
was
contractor?
building a house next door, and he used to pick me up and take me for rides, and always wanted to show me wrestling holds with always putting my head in between his legs. But at the time, I did not look at it as sexual. He was showing me wrestling holds where my head was always
always
constantly
wrestling.
in between his legs.
It's always wrestling holds when you find about all these perverts that try to do this stuff to kids. Oh, let me put you in this wrestling hold.
Under his legs. I was 19 when I ran away, and that was in 80.
Liar.
Not 80.
Liar.
61.
Holds.
I went to Las
Holds,
Vegas for 3
not
months.
holes.
Took my car and left.
Yeah.
I worked for Palm Mortuary, being the night man, picking up bodies at the hospitals and stuff for them. I worked as a night man only. I did have nothing to do with the bodies. All this
Well, he
talk
is
that
a
I slept
liberal.
with the dead ones or had sex with dead bodies. There is no truth to any of that.
You did live in the mortuary.
I lived in a mortuary, yes, but not in the
Yeah,
embalming
Uncle
room. I mean,
Rick
they
and his
make it
wrestling
sound like
moves.
I slept in the crypts with him, and I never climbed into a coffin or anything like that. That is so damn ridiculous. It's the same thing. The
His
contention
teeth are
is
so
that I slept
creepy.
all night with Robert Peace. If you want to say I slept in the same house with a dead body, okay, fine, I'll buy that. But in the same room, no. And besides, the dead won't bother you. It's the living you got to worry about.
Jesus, that's haunting.
I felt things were going to work out because I knew that I didn't do the killing, and I thought it would come out in the trial. But Amaranthi, with this insanity defense, and again, you can call it my ignorance of the law. It's like I explained in a letter to Chief Justice William Clark. The evidence based is on the theory that the more sensational a case is, the more crazier it sounds, the insanity defense would work. And I still think it was stupid. I think that they did a disservice to me, and they did a disservice to the victims. And you know what people don't understand? I feel I was wrongfully convicted.
Yeah, I was just going to
It
say,
was only because
this
of
dude definitely
sensationalism and
slept
ego.
with the dead.
The Des Plaines police did a sloppy investigation. This is, I mean, it may not be the correct way of wording it, but the thing of it is that they had other suspects, and they had tunnel vision in to say, it's Gacy's house. It's easier to put everything on Gacy.
Hey, your paintings
Mandy.
have improved over the years. I think you've seen some.
I think I've learned from each one of them.
Hey,
I guess it's the same reason why I relate to Michelangelo, because he was a workaholic, and Leonardo da Vinci.
He's nuttier than squirrel
people always
turds.
ask me who my favorite artists are and why. And I did not know that Michelangelo was homosexual. It doesn't make no difference to me. He was a workaholic. He was a sculptor. He was a painter and did a lot of other things. Da Vinci was an inventor in that. And of course, in my life, I've done painting, decorating, wallpapering. I've done mural work. You name it. As you know, I'm a bug about record keeping.
Mhm.
All of my business records confirmed where I was, who I was with, what hotel I stayed at, what meals I ate. Everything was in the files. And all of those files on December 29th of 1978 were confiscated by the Des Plaines Police Department. And those files there alone could have proven that I wasn't in Illinois when 16 of these murders, when they finally set the dates as to when these murders occurred.
Now, you did say that you never painted yourself as the innocent babe in the woods.
We're going over the same thing.
yeah,
We're not going to go into
basically, no. But I mean, the point is if you feel that you're not covering up your part of the crimes, but at the same time you open up the thought that others were involved, would you be willing to cooperate with law enforcement people today to avail, say, the materials that you have amassed and to more or less pursue, if in fact there are others that are on the streets that have been involved in these murders? Would you be willing to cooperate and to assist to pursue that to the ends of bringing others to justice? Would you be willing to do that?
I got no qualms about that, but what I don't understand is why wasn't it done to begin with, Bob? The thing of it is, they want you to believe that I and I alone committed these murders, and I had nothing to do with the murders of anyone.
If anybody was involved, then how many people are we talking about beside yourself?
We believe there was 4 people involved,
Mhm.
and that would be Michael Rossi, David Cram, Philip Paskey. Here we've got a Philip Paskey who had a newsletter going out of the Cook County Jail. And here he is involved with a guy named John Norman. And John Norman was running Boys for Hire. They were making snuff films with young boys. To me, they were pimping them off. They were selling them. There was a crossover when we checked into John Norman's background that he goes all the way back to the early 70s, involved in he ran the Norman Foundation. He run Epic International and the Odyssey Foundation out of Dallas, Texas. And these were organizations where wealthy men could hire young boys for sexual weekends, male prostitution.
Had you ever met Norman?
Yeah, exactly.
Had any contact with Norman?
I have yet to see a current picture of him, and therefore I'd have to say no. Phil Paskey may have been with him at one time or another, because see, again, I came home from out of town at times, and Phil Paskey would be at the house drinking beer or something like that. David Cram is the one that brought Phil Paskey in, because his Cram, when he didn't want to do nothing, he got a hold of this guy and said, well, this guy can get you somebody for sex. I have a lot of things that I've forgotten that I can't remember. For instance, I can go back to my childhood and stuff and I still remember that, but yet I can go into the 70s and there are a lot of things I can't remember. The same thing with the victims. I've looked at all of, I don't know if you notice here, we got pictures of every one of the victims here. And believe it or not, for the last 12 years, I've studied these photos of the victims. And there is no, we have a shot of all of the victims together here. And when you look over at the photos, I have no recollection of any of them, never met them. And we've gone over this more than once. They're just names and faces. And when you look at them, the thing of it is, we took it a step further. We went into their backgrounds. I wanted to know where they were at, what schools they attended, who they hung out with, and what kind of activities they were into. And that's what we dug up on each one of the victims. But still, there is no association. None of them never worked for me. None of them, they never went to any places that I ever hung around.
He is.
I didn't hang around
That's
that many
so
places
right.
unless you were involved in politics. Or if you were involved in clowning, then I might have ran into you. But there's
Clowning.
no way I could have run into any of them.
So creepy.
They've got
Clowning.
a jury that doesn't belong to the victims. They've got the 2 clown suits that don't belong to the victim. Just like I consider myself the 34th victim. I consider the families victims as well, because they did not get justice from the shoddy investigation all the way down through.
Clowning.
As I told you, when the FBI first came in to check on me, you said that you were kept out of the case back in '78, and that was only because of egos. They did not want a professional coming in and doing an investigation. So they did their sloppy investigation and let it slide that way. You see, everybody was so excited about the large, massive case, and everybody was looking with their egos as to how they could close this thing up. And you know, the only one that they really hurt, you've had the victim's family vent all their hostility towards me, and they think I'm the monster that killed their son or took out their son and stuff like that. When in fact, most of them don't even have the remains of their own sons. And you know, that's another thing everybody misses from this, is that the victims' families are not aware that in a lot of the cases they don't even have the remains of their own sons, because the Dr. Stein never turned over the whole body, and they took the heads off of each one of the victims. So when you turn over the remains to a loved one's family, they don't have the whole body.
This
What do you actually feel that my case has been thoroughly investigated?
I think, John, in a case like this, and I find this in many major cases, that things are at the time of the case are done rather hastily because of the fact that there's pressure on.
Yeah, but that's a political answer. I know.
Yeah.
I don't want a political answer from you. I want a base.
it must be very strange, because I'm sitting here and I'm just looking at this gentleman that's interviewing Gacy. How, just to know the horrificness of this person in front of you, of what they've done, and to sit there and I wouldn't say have a normal conversation, but have a conversation with this person, knowing the horrors that he's committed. That just it must put you on another planet. Like, I can't believe I'm talking to a person that killed 33 people. It's just insane. That and levelness of just insaneness is, I can't put words to it.
Answer.
Do you actually think that the investigation of my case has been done right?
I believe in your case that there should have been more focus on others, as there should have been others checked out a little more thoroughly. That's the belief I've developed over these years. Yeah, I just think that we're kind of wrapping it up here. I think we accomplished something today. Certainly, we put something down on tape that has not been said. My feeling as a career law enforcement officer is that if John Wayne Gacy is guilty, then he should be punished. If John Wayne Gacy has others involved, then they should be brought in. They should be punished. Basically, I believe in total investigation and total justice, and that's really what I've been looking for all along.
And that's it. That is that one there. So what we have next is a smaller, shorter interview. He did also another interview in 1992, and this one is with Walter Jacobson. So we'll pull that up. It's a short interview. And like I said, Gacy didn't give a lot of on-camera interviews. He did more towards, I think, when he knew his execution date was coming. But we'll pull this up and play through this one as well. We'll see what he's got to say.
People don't want to know. People don't want to know the truth and the honesty of it. If they want to be convinced or brainwashed into what they believe, then fine, then go ahead and kill me. But vengeance is mine, saith the Lord, because you will have executed somebody that didn't commit the crime. When they paint the image that I was this monster who picked up like these altar boys along the street and swatted them like flies, I said, this is ludicrous. I've taken 3.5 hours of truth serum. And under sodium amytal, the maximum amount that I could have, it shows that I have no knowledge of the crime whatsoever. Never have had.
So
Loving and
complacent.
caring. I've always looked after my children, even now.
What kind of values do you remember imparting to them?
The kind of values?
Were you strict with them too?
No,
Your
not
father
as
wasn't?
not as strict as no. A lot of things that my dad did, I refused to do because I don't believe in hitting children. I don't believe in spoiling a child either. My values
This is
are such
crazy,
that if you give
crazy.
enough love to
You're
children,
accused of murdering
Yeah.
33 kids, and you say you didn't believe in hitting.
Exactly.
well, anybody that you see, first of all, you're basing this garbage on what you've heard of me.
What happened to?
It's funny. The interviewer actually kind of almost rattled Gacy a little bit there.
What happened in the Bukovic case? Where was he picked up, and how did he get to the house, and what happened with him?
I don't want to go into the other the 5 that I know about. Just take it that I didn't. Bukovic is not one that I killed, so I don't know nothing about him. The little bit that I know about him is that he was an employee of mine. See, when you look about this recall business, and
I'm not a prosecutor, John, but you just
I know
said
you're not. Wait a
Bukovic
minute.
is not one that you killed, which suggests that maybe
Oh.
in fact there were others that you did kill. And I'm not.
Okay, I'm sorry if I led you to believe. No, strike it then. That is wrong. If you want to charge me with anything, charge me with complicity in 2 of the murders.
Just 2?
Just 2.
That's all I know about. Robert Peace was killed by another
Just-
individual in my home.
How did he get
He was transported to the house by another.
How did the other, whoever he was, kill Robert Peace?
I believe he was strangled.
You were there, right?
Not during the crime, but I was there afterwards and I watched the removal of the body.
Oh my
And
God.
What happened to the body afterwards? Was one that was
It
that
was
that
taken
body
to
was
the
put
river.
into the
It was
river?
taken to the river and dumped in the river.
Did you help do that?
Yes, I'm in complicity with that. I've always contended. Don't look at me as an innocent babe of the woods.
I wonder why he admitted to some of these crimes, but some of them, he said, I have nothing to do with it when we clearly know that he did. I wonder what makes, them attached to a certain victim, but then disassociate with all the other crimes that they committed. I find that very strange too, how he's just saying like, I killed 2 people when we clearly know that he killed over 33.
In regards to going out in the garage, yes, I know I went to the house, and yes, I know I walked in the garage, and they asked me where the last section of concrete was poured. Okay. I said, there's the last section
It's
where the
crazy.
last section of concrete was poured.
So complacent.
They are the ones that took the oil
Narcissistic.
can and said, here, put a mark there. So I put an X there.
So the paint was not to identify the place of burial.
No, it never was. They had shoelaces, huh? You're in trouble now.
Oh, this is the
Sitting that close
this is the slip knot.
to me? What the hell? Oh, this is too long. You don't need it this long. Okay,
Ugh,
I had
this
a
is
rosary.
haunting.
which I carried in my pocket. I've always carried a rosary. It was my communion rosary. They said, well, what kind of a knot do you use? I said, what do you mean knot? When I tie things up? I says, depending on what I'm using.
When I
said,
tie
the only thing
things
I
up.
ever learned from Boy Scouts is a tourniquet knot. He said, well, show us what that is. So I took, at that time, and again, it's together, but in order to demonstrate it here, I took the rosary and I said, well, here, you put it around. This is hard trying to do this. Why
Yeah,
don't you put your
sure.
hand out?
Ugh.
Okay, here, what I told him, I said, here, all you do is you wrap it around, you put one knot in it. And I said, then you put a second knot in it. Okay? I said, then you take a stick and stick it in here and you just turn this. And I says, it causes a tourniquet. I said, that's the only knot I ever learned. To me, clowning
Ugh.
was a way of relaxation for me. You regressed into childhood, you were able to relax. And you could be goofy if you wanted to.
Jesus.
And still you had the facade of your face being covered. I used to do clowning, and I don't know if you want to mention the name.
So
for an ice
these
cream company in
paintings
Chicago.
here, I was telling you about, G.G. Allen's brother owns some of these paintings. He bought them from Gacy, or they got out somehow from Gacy, and he owns some of these paintings.
Who had 33 flavors. I used to, I'm serious, Bressler Ice Cream Company. I was their contractor, and I was also their clown. And Pogo the Clown was the clowning that I did for charity hospital work for the Democratic Party and that. And
Could
Pogo
be.
the Clown is originally.
Good.
Pogo comes from being Polish and on the go all the time. So it's Pogo. I always felt that service community and community service to others, in my religious background, I felt if you serve other people, it'll come back to serve you. I've always believed that way with generosity.
What's your life like?
Day to day,
Mhm.
I live it day to day.
What do you mean?
If you want to know what my life is like, I log it every day. For the last 12 years, all you got to do is ask. I can tell you everything. I can tell you it's the first meal they served me here because I do it.
I wonder
daily.
if that's the.
What do you do all day?
Every phone call, everything that
I
do.
wonder if he does that. Maybe it's an obsessive compulsive disorder. To do that, to log his life. But I almost think this is also to, I guess in a strange way, in a sick way to think about this is to to recount the legacy, to give something to the media or who's going to write about him after. I mean, these guys, they're smart. They know they're going to be written about, or guys or women. They know that they'll always be talked about and studied, and they probably leave this, information behind to be studied and be looked at and have books written about them. And they're not stupid in that sense. They know.
Every time an officer is around me is logged.
Bye,
Every
Amber. Take
movement
care.
that I
Thanks
make
for
is in the book
watching.
here.
Stay
When I
safe.
tell you, I've
Please.
got background information on it. We took each one of them by. We took each one of the victims, and this is by their names or by their indictment numbers. And what we did with each one of them, we did profile sheets on them. We wanted to know what this kid was into, what his background was. My dad was domineering in the fact he had a different set of values, but also very stern individual. My dad drank a lot. When he drank a lot, yeah, he was abusive to my mother and to me. But I never swung at my dad because I loved him for what he stood for.
Why the skeleton?
This was done by request. Somebody requested a skull clown, and mostly the punk rockers and the undergrounders like that stuff there. This is Christ as I see him in myself. And it's monolithic because Christ to me is monolithic. He's all things to all people. This here is the High Ho series, and that is self-explanatory. It's the Seven Dwarfs, and they've always stuck to me as a great child painting. And so I've done a series of High Ho
that's
series
so creepy.
paintings. And this is the 1990 one. This is called High Ho Around the Campfire. It's an original work. Walt Disney is a mentor for me because I've always enjoyed his creativity. And the Seven Dwarfs, if you actually look at all the faces, they represent the 7 different moods that most people can get into. And nowadays, do you realize by 1993 that 50% of the American families will be single parented? And that shows a breakdown in the church and not being able to hold families together. And for this reason, children run away from home and seek love in other places. What do I think of Jeffrey Dahmer? I don't know the man personally, but I'll tell you this. That's a good example as to why insanity doesn't belong in the courtroom. Because if Jeffrey Dahmer doesn't meet the requirements for insanity,
Interesting.
then
He
I'd
asked
hate
him
my
about
tail to run
Dahmer.
into the guy that does.
Do you feel
Beyond that, I have no comment on Jeffrey Dahmer because I'm not Jeffrey Dahmer. And I would not, whether it's Berkowitz, whether it's Bundy, whether it's Williams, Wayne Williams down in Atlanta, or any of the others, or Charlie Manson. See, I don't comment about other cases for the simple fact is that I wasn't
Do you
there.
feel somewhat of a kinship with some of
No,
these people?
God, I hate that when they put me in the same club with them. I'm not only the victim here. I may be the 34th victim, but there are other victims to this crime, and that is the family. Because if I know that I didn't commit the crime, then I have been given the injustice, and so has the families. And nobody gives a damn about the families. That one mother that gets on television all the time who thinks I should be given 33 injections, I think she ought to take 33 Valiums and go lay down. She goes on Geraldo show and all these other shows talking about, I think it's Maori, I think is the name. Her Marine son. Her Marine son, if her Marine son was so great, what the hell did he run away from home 12 times?
Not enough for him to be murdered.
I know that. There's a misconception of what the house on Summerdale is. It's not a house where you work 9 to 5 and come home, and it's like a house where you live in. The living room was the private office section. One of the bedrooms was a terrarium. The kitchen was more like a fast food kitchen. We have always contended there's others involved. At the time of my arrest, there was 4 other suspects. 3 of the suspects that we knew that they knew then was Michael Rossi, David Cram, and Philip Paskey, all employees of PDM Contractors, all with keys to the house on Summerdale. I met him the night he was killed because I met him with Michael Rossi, I had a drink with the two of them, and then I left. And when I next seen the individual, he was dead.
Where did you see
Why
him?
didn't I say something about it? Because it wasn't my business, and I stayed out of other people's business.
Where did you see him dead?
In the house on Summerdale.
And did
Yeah.
Rossi tell you who had killed him?
No, Rossi didn't say nothing. Rossi was sleeping on a couch. I just left.
And how did he get buried?
Gacy was
He was
arrested
buried
in
the 12th.
78.
When I come back, he wasn't there. So, Walter, that's your guess as to who put him in the ground and that. No, I started back in 1984. I started taking 10 milligram of Valium, and by the time 1978 came around, I was doing 130 milligram of Valium. But then I was moving 80 jobs a year, and I was working 16, 18-hour days, and I just had to have something to take the pressure off. When I was arrested, they claimed, well, there was a putrefied odor in the house. And I contend that was a lot of hogwash too, because one officer, Schultz, claims on the 18th or on the 19th that as he came into the house, we had come into the house and my little Lhasa Apso was in the house. And of course, he had been locked in the kitchen, all day. Well, the little puppy, he piddles. See, and while he's piddling.
Good night, Shipley. Thank you
and
for
while
stopping
he
by.
is,
Get some
doing his
rest.
business on the paper and that, you can imagine what it smells like if you go into a closed room. And when the heat came on, as soon as the heat came on, it'd give you, that strong feces odor. I found it as odd when we bought the house that a house with a crawl space would need a sump pump. But then I learned the first time it rained that this ground gets wet under there, and the crawl space actually floods up to a foot deep in water. And then as it recedes, it puts out a musty odor. There's always
No,
a
those were the
musty
dead
odor
people.
in that house.
It wasn't the
I'm
clay
just
or the
as
odor.
lovable and jokeable as I was back then. I don't sit around worrying about the death penalty or things like that. No.
How could you not?
If you believe you've lived your life the right way, then you do not have nothing to fear. In my case,
You're not worried about facing God?
no. I'm fairly comfortable with him. I've been at the Catholic services. I'm the server.
Yeah, I think a
for the
lot of
priest for the
people
last
had
10 years.
that hair back in the
I have
day.
no qualms
It's
about doing
creepy hair.
it. I've had confession. I have communion, and I am at peace with myself.
And that's it. That's Gacy. I got a couple more here to play through. I have actually an interview, like a 3-minute interview when he was the head cook at the prison. We'll play that, which is really strange. And let's play this.
I'm John Gacy. I'm from Waterloo, Iowa. And you're a man.
How young he was.
Here. What is your title? Well, I'm first cook in the kitchen, and I run the morning meal and the afternoon meal in the kitchen.
John, how long have you been here?
I've been here now a year and about 2 weeks.
So this is
Am I asking how long?
this is when he first was really apprehended. So this would be like 79 or just close to 80. So this is only about a year after he was apprehended.
Well, I hope to be getting out sometime in May.
Well, good. You're going to continue as a cook, use that as a profession?
Right. This is my profession before I came in.
All right.
Food service.
And I want to say that one of the inspirations for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre was they took a bunch of serial killers and kind of created that character. As basically the main character was based off was Ed Gein, but knowing Gacy in the prison was a cook, and that's what they did. They were cooking essentially humans in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So I would probably seem that the cook being based was off this character. If you actually go back and watch the movie, the font in that movie looked very much like Gacy.
How about Christmas time? You do anything special for the guys? What are you planning for old Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, for example?
Well, Christmas Eve, the food service department.
It's his first stint? Oh, okay. So this was the sodomy charge then, right?
Well, actually,
fun fact, the cemetery in the OG Texas Chainsaw movie is down the street from me. I know lots of people in there. That is crazy and creepy. And I would love someday if you could get a picture of the headstone that is in the movie and send that to me. I think that would be wild if you were ever willing to do that. And if you actually watch the Grim Life Collective, they actually went there and visited that cemetery, and they actually go to the headstone that is in the opening shot of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That house was moved and it actually, the actual house was moved, and I think it's now like a bed and breakfast or a restaurant. They saved the house, and they talking about it in that Grim Life Collective episode. That's a great channel if anybody hasn't seen that. It's a really great channel. I love that channel. They do great work.
The paper bags that'll have fruit, an apple and an orange, and a box of bridge mix.
Oh, okay.
And this is all from the staff here. They donate this. Then in the cell houses
Right.
on Christmas Eve, we will serve cookies and hot chocolate to the men in the cell house.
Oh, this is so creepy.
8:30, 9 o'clock at night. Then come Christmas Day, we serve a regular traditional Christmas dinner.
Now tell us about that. What's that going to be?
This is quite a meal. This will be roast whole turkey. We use 25 whole turkeys that are approximately 540 pounds of turkey.
And remember, he managed 3 KFC restaurants. This guy knew how to cook.
All prepared by inmates, and there's 9 cooks under my direction, under the supervision of several.
Got it.
Food area. Along with that, we'll make.
This is the sodomy charge, correct?
Pans, large baking pans of oyster dressing. We use 8 gallons of oyster in that. And we use the giblets and everything so it doesn't go to waste, and there's a nice giblet gravy. We'll have candied sweet potatoes and use about 36 gallons of that. And
the channel is called the Grim Life Collective. The Grim Life Collective. It's a husband and wife team. They do amazing mini documentaries where they go out to, bizarre places. Like they were just in Fall River doing the Lizzie Borden house. They'll go to crash sites like where Richie Valens, Buddy Holly, and the Big Bopper passed away, and they put together and reenact all the scenes and photographs. It's a really great channel. It's just all bizarre stuff. They went out to Kurt Cobain's Hollywood house, Hill's house, and actually got into the house and matched up photographs to where where those photographs were taken. And it's a really, really great channel. They have like over 1 million subscribers. I think they've been doing it a long, long time, and they go and just do, bizarre and ghost hunts. And let me do this. I'm going to put it in the chat. I really support their channel. They do phenomenal work. The Grim Life Collective. Yeah, they have 425,000 subscribers. Let me pull up their channel and I'll pop that in there. I'd be glad to support them. They're really great. And I think that you'll really enjoy their videos. They do a lot of work into the videos. They literally just travel the country every year and they just make videos. So please go over and support them. Grim Life Collective. And they have one of the best intros. I love their intro song, and I love, they just do. I wish someday I could have a level of channel that they have. It's just amazing. It's really, really, they should have over 1 million subscribers. It's
so that they have a choice of potato. We make up 250 pounds of mashed potatoes to go along with it. Along with that, we'll use some 60 pounds of mixed vegetables to serve a mixed vegetable as the second vegetable on the plan. We'll have 50 pounds of cranberry sauce made up. And we'll make up a Waldorf salad. And our Waldorf salad is
cool. No problem.
And we use fresh marshmallows.
I love their channel.
Fresh green grapes and fruit cocktail, and make up our own whipped cream topping with it.
All right, I'm kind of over that video. I don't need to know what they were eating and whatever. Okay, so let's see. Second to last one I have here is the interview with Bill O'Reilly just before Gacy was executed. We'll play that, and then I have one last video to round up the night with a neighbor of Gacy after he was caught. Obviously, after they found what they found in his house, the bodies in his house. Let's play this.
Suburbs near Chicago's O'Hare Airport. Gacy was active in local politics and once had his photo taken with then First Lady Rosalynn Carter.
This guy didn't have horns on him. He didn't walk around with a sign that he's a mass murderer. And he was extremely well liked, very popular.
Gacy always liked the limelight. Dressed as Pogo the Clown, he liked to entertain children. and he loved to throw lavish parties. Then on December 11th, 1978, a local boy, Rob Peace, disappeared. He told his mother he was meeting with John Gacy about a job. A search of Gacy's home turned
Look at
up
the
a
clown
number of
painting.
items from other missing kids, like
Jesus.
class rings and other jewelry, but police couldn't find any sign of foul play.
You know, we had maybe a slight idea, but no real concrete evidence that there was a homicide here.
For Rosemary and Richard Zick, the search of Gacy's home brought disturbing news. Some of the jewelry police recovered belonged to their son, John. He'd been missing for almost 2 years by then.
He was my third son. He was 19 when he disappeared. He had been out of high school for about 1.5 years.
Police didn't have enough to charge Gacy with anything, so they decided to follow him. After 2 weeks of constant surveillance, Gacy cracked. With his lawyer present, Gacy told a room full of shocked policemen that he'd killed dozens of young men and buried most of them under his house.
He drew a detailed map of his crawl space, showing where the bodies were so best as he could recall.
Using the map that Gacy made, police began the brutal job of excavating the crawl space under Gacy's home. And one by one, the body bags made their morbid parade to the coroner's truck. This man, who we will identify only as Robert, was one of the lucky few who got away. Only months before Gacy's arrest, he ran into Gacy in a bar.
This is it right
Gacy
here.
brought him back to his house, where Gacy asked him to try a new drug.
Gave me that, and I tried it, and while it was chloroform, it knocked me out.
Jesus.
Then what happened?
Well, I woke up in bed with him.
For some reason, Gacy didn't kill Robert. He just let him go. But it wasn't until after Gacy's arrest for murder that Robert realized just how lucky he was. Now he's happy to see Gacy get his.
At his trial, Gacy admitted to killing one young man in self-defense, but claimed someone else put the other bodies under his house. He was convicted of all 33 murders.
I woke up
Yesterday,
in bed
he
with
chose
him.
Inside Edition to make his final public comments. I spoke with him on the phone.
Are you frightened right now? Time is growing very short.
No, I'm in a good mood. Why?
So you're not frightened of losing your life?
Bill, do you think about death every day?
No,
I don't.
But if my death were scheduled to be tomorrow, I might.
Well, I'm not.
So you're not frightened at all?
I know. O'Reilly's so young.
Cannot change.
It's crazy.
Do you feel any sense of remorse about anything that's happened here?
Have you ever seen his blow up? We'll do it live. We'll do it live. Just do it live. Fucking thing sucks. You ever see that video? It's hilarious.
Well, considering I've never
Maybe
had
I'll
a
play
fair
that
trial,
after.
How am I supposed to feel?
Before we wrap it up. Little fun at the end.
So you're telling me from the heart that you feel no remorse or guilt here at all?
Well, if somebody would have taken the time to look at the facts, you'll find out that they're not what they were said to be. There's more fantasy on me than there is fact.
Even at this late date, you still say that you are innocent.
I will go to my death that way. Until you remove politics from the court system, all we're going to go ahead with is a state-executed murder.
So you feel you're going to be murdered?
That's correct.
Is there any possibility that you would change your mind before the execution and say, yeah, I really did something? Is there any possibility that that would happen?
No, if you're looking for a Ted Bundy, go talk to Ted Bundy. They've asked me to give them a final statement, and I haven't issued one yet. All I've told the DOC is to arrange for 10 minutes, in which at time I will decide whether I'm going to talk or not.
I strongly suspect you will have something to say. What could that be?
I have no idea at this time. I haven't even thought about it.
Do you think you'll be very emotional at that moment?
In regards to what? I just feel that I feel sorry for the victims' families because they have not gotten justice in this case.
This guy's a mental case.
I think they have a right to know. Some of them have got the remains of bodies that don't even belong to them.
Is there any way you can explain at this late hour how 27 bodies were found underneath your house?
I've already told you there's 12 keys to the house. We've linked 16 of the bodies to one individual. We've linked 14 more to another individual. All these people had keys to the house.
Yes, you did it. And you do not repent. I'm sure the confessor will tell you, God have mercy on your soul.
I am at peace with God.
Once again, Gacy is set to receive a lethal injection at 1 minute after midnight.
That's it. That's it. All right, we'll play this real quick. Let's just do this one real quick because I think this will be fun. Let's do a little. This is classic.
And that is it for us today. Okay, I don't know. Whatever it is, it's not right on the teleprompter. I don't know what that is. I've never seen that.
If I don't get nailed with a copyright here.
Okay, but yeah, I can't read it. There's no words on it.
Okay. Sure.
There's no words there to play us out. What does that mean? To play us out?
Sting is going to do. It's a video. Sting video.
He's like,
what is
for credits?
I don't know what that means. To play us out. What does that mean? To end the show?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, go.
In 5, 4, 3.
That's tomorrow, and that is it.
In 5, 4, 3.
That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today. And we will leave you with I can't do it. We'll do it live.
Okay. No.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it, and we'll do it live.
Right.
Fucking thing sucks.
In 5, 4, 3.
That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today. I'm Bill
Oh, this is
O'Reilly.
great.
Thanks again for watching. We'll leave you with Sting and a cut off his new
right here
album.
when it
Take it away.
Right here, watch when he gets up. I hope it's the whole video. Right here. Oh, I love it. Bill O'Reilly freaking out is so fun. All right, cool cats and kittens. I get it early. I have to do an early show tonight. I'm sorry. I have to be up super early for work tomorrow. I was gonna play through the Next Door Neighbor, but I'm gonna pass on that tonight. Just a quick show this evening. And I'll be back on Thursday. I promise I'll have some more time on Thursday. But there's Thursday's link there. We're going to go over Colonel Russell Williams, the interrogation video, because you guys called for interrogation videos. I'm sorry. I felt a little flat tonight. I wasn't really totally into the show. It's not my best performance, so I apologize to all you guys. But I appreciate you all coming over and hanging out this evening. Oh, by the way, I have to update the leaderboard here. My subscriber count. Let's see. I need to throw a 4 up there. So we're getting there, closer to 5,000, slowly but surely. But yeah, we'll be back on Thursday night. Oh, thank you, Wild Cherry. I appreciate your $3 super sticker. Thank you so much. That definitely helps and goes back into the channel. Thank you so much. Look, as I said at the beginning of the show, I have to properly celebrate that. I'm sorry, I'm being rude. Let's give her a cheer on that one. Thank you so much.
I got you, homie.
Thank you. Listen, yeah, we want 5,000, and then I want 10,000. I want 10,000 by the end of the year. So 5,000 by June. That's my goal. And then hopefully 10,000 by the end of the year. But listen, I can't do Koberger all the time. You can't do it. There's not enough. We're going to come back. I have some stuff that I want to go over on Sunday on Koberger. I'm saving all the Koberger stuff for the Sunday night shows. And this is what I want to do. I want to do, as much as we look back at some of the old, the infamous serial killers, we'll do those on Tuesdays. Thursday nights, we're going to do interrogation videos because you guys asked for that. So we'll do that material. But, it's going to take a little while for this portion of the show to catch on, because a lot of people that came here, they're looking for Koberger, they're looking for Idaho, and it just can't be that all the time. We need to rest our minds at least a couple of nights a week about that, and to give it some space to see if anything new comes out as well too. So Sunday nights are my Idaho shows. We do Serial Killer Tuesdays, and then Thursday we do Throwback Thursday interrogation videos. So we gotta pump the brakes on that a little bit. for the Koberger stuff. But I have a lot to get into on Sunday. I just have to sort through the material, get it ready. And I have some questionable things. You know, I've been emailing a couple of people that watch the show, have gave me some new perspectives on what they're talking about, some things that have come out, questioning the DNA, what's being put out there in the media, and we'll go over that stuff because I think it's very interesting and it needs to be talked about. Yeah, you have to have a well-balanced channel. You have to have a well-balanced channel. And, you know, and the funny thing is, you know, I've been scouting a lot of the channels lately, and I find, you know, and I don't really like to talk about other channels or their material, but, you know, you guys know I support Drunk Turkey. After the show tonight, I would love you guys to go over and support Publicly Buzzed. He's doing some recap over there. I think some Koberger, Boone, Sarah Boone on his channel. So when I get done here, go support him. Tell him I sent you guys over there because I think he's streaming right now. And he was doing some Koberger stuff. You know, Drunk Turkey, I love Publicly Buzzed. I want to do more with them. Truth and Transparency, I know that you guys watch a lot of Lena stuff, and that's great. But, you know, there's some channels out there that I look at, and I think it's very funny where their channel was just in a completely different direction. And then it was like almost like they jumped on the Idaho and Koberger stuff. And now all of a sudden they're full-fledged, you know, truthers or whatever. And literally this is one channel that I watch, and it's like, there's no material. He just, well, I just kind of gave it away. This person, hang on a second. Just literally pulls up news article and just reads a news article, like doesn't give any insight into what is, you know, what their personal thoughts is. They're literally just reading a news article, and I'm like, this person has 70,000 subscribers and their subscriber count is going through the roof. There's no material here. And these people, like, I read the comments and they're like, oh, it's so great that you're giving these updates and da 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 da. And I'm like, it's just crazy. Anyway. There's the link there. Go over and support Publicly Buzzed. Let him know that I sent you guys over there. He needs some people on his stream. Go support him. He's got some great content. I'm going to head out, guys. I will see you guys back on Thursday. I know I ranted a little bit at the end. Probably shouldn't have said all that stuff, but it's one of those nights. I'm just not feeling it. I had to let a little of the crap out. Appreciate everybody in the chat this evening. Thank you so much. I love all you guys. Come back on Thursday. We're going to do the interrogation of Colonel Colonel. I will get all this out. Colonel Russell Williams. He's the Canadian. Very interesting interrogation, but we'll go through that. All right, guys, go over and see Publicly Buzzed. Let them know I sent you over there, and I will see you guys on Thursday. We out. Bye, guys. Bye.